Hello and welcome to the Business of Meetings podcast. I'm Eric Rosenberg, and today I'm delighted to speak with Sarah Soliman Daudin. She's an entrepreneur, had her own production company. She's volunteering in many organizations and currently the vice chair of MPI Global Board of Trustees, as well as the incoming president of the Orlando Chapter. She is full of insights, and I hope you will enjoy listening to her as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely happy to speak with Sarah Soliman Daudin in English, or Daudin in French. How are you?
I'm doing well, Eric, and thank you for giving us both the French and the English pronunciation. My husband's going to appreciate that.
With great pleasure, especially that there's nothing I can help with. I cannot hide the accent, as you know, so.
That's okay. We love the accent. Keep it coming.
Thank you. How are you doing?
It's such an interesting question in today's environment with, of course, everything that's happening around the coronavirus and working from home, and just we live in a very, very different society. So I am doing well individually as a person. I'm doing well. But I'm definitely ready to get back on the road and get our face-to-face interactions back in order, because I find myself waking up and really missing that in my life. So all in all, I'm doing well, but it's definitely an interesting time to be an entrepreneur and to be in an industry where you're used to seeing people face-to-face all the time.
Absolutely. So you have your own business for how many years now?
5 years. Isn't that crazy? It's been 5 years already.
Wow.
I know. I say that and I'm like, what happened in 5 years? Like I think back and it just feels like a big blur of craziness, but it's been 5 years and going strong. Fingers crossed.
Can you share with us a little bit how you came to basically start your own company? What were you doing before? And most importantly, what is the tipping point, the moment when you say, you know what, now I'm going on my own?
Yeah. So I have been in the industry for about 10 years, but I wasn't always working for myself. So I was working for another production company. And then I was with them for about 4.5 years, startup, small business. I was able to get introduced to the meetings and events industry, which I'm super grateful for. And then from there, I found myself feeling unhappy in my space, like in the environment that I was in. And then I thought about it and I said, well, life is short. I don't have to be here. I don't have to be stuck in the situation. So I have options. I can leave and try to go pursue another career, another job, work for someone else, or I can try to start my own business. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, that's okay. Corporate America isn't going anywhere.
Right.
I grew up with a father who is a business owner. So I was lucky enough to have that backbone and support in knowing what it takes to go into business for yourself. So it was really a leap of faith more than anything. And it came out of being uncomfortable in a situation that I was once comfortable in. So out of uncomfortability, Soliman Productions was born. From there, I wasn't necessarily committed, to be quite honest, to staying in the meetings and events industry. I didn't want to cause any chaos or commotion or confusion or whatever other fancy adjective I can use. And I knew that I wanted to do production, whether it was for businesses or just, in general. That was my field. That's what I went to school for. That was going to be the backbone and core of my business. Relationships, which we are all very privy to in this industry, kind of pulled me back in. So when people that, I had built very strong relationships with over the years found out that I was stepping out on my own and still doing production, they said, whoa, wait a minute. We need you to come work with us still, with our organization. So there I was, making my way back into the industry just through really good relationships that I had established in my past life. And here we are 5 years later. And, it's been the best decision I've made so far. For sure. I wasn't an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs that you talk to are like, I always knew I wanted to be a business owner. That was my story, but that's definitely not my story. For me, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm a business owner now. And I still sometimes wake up and think, what am I doing? I can just I try to figure it out every day. And it's been a really cool challenge for me.
And now you're facing the first crisis with your business, right?
Yes, this is definitely the first. Well, I faced small crises that were more controllable within my reaction to the crisis was more controlled, and I can control my reaction now, but this is like a completely different world, even for people that have been in business for a long time, that have endured, the
Sure.
financial crisis in
Yep.
2008 or or 9/11 even, all of these different things that have occurred over the past few years. This is unique to everybody.
Absolutely.
So certainly for me, I'm like, what in the world am I supposed to do now? So it's been interesting, but again, I am always up for the challenge, and so is my team. And I'm so grateful for my team and how they just learn to pivot with me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a word that obviously we hear a lot, and it's for sure the right thing to consider. Before we speak about what does pivoting means for you, I'm curious to know, when was the moment when you say, oh my God, this is really serious, and we're all in this together, but there's no more business for the next few weeks? When was the moment when you said, that's it?
I think that moment for me was when the number of cancellations just continued to grow for us. So we provide, video content for mostly associations. So we travel all over the country or in the world essentially to provide on-site video content. So obviously if there's no on-site event, there is no content to provide. So for us, in March, I was getting some cancellations and I was expecting it. But then when I started to get cancellations for events that we have in May, and then even postponements for events that we have in June, that's when I was like, oh boy, okay, this is temporary, but it's not as temporary as I want it to be, right? It's not just a few events in March and a couple of in April. It's like, this is really impacting business. Like we have no, as everybody can relate to this, we have no on-site face-to-face events until June as of right now. So, it's scary when your business is based on face-to-face meetings. So what do you do in a situation where now there is no face-to-face? There is none of that. And not only that, but then budgets are impacted. So when we're talking about marketing and when we're talking about still being able to create video content, sure, that's something we can still do. But when your budget is being impacted, or when the person that was your point of contact within an organization is now furloughed, or even worse, laid off, what do you do then? What's that next step as a business person to get creative and find solutions, and also be an outlet for people and organizations that you work with to find ways to help them maintain some of that revenue that they were supposed to make within their on-site meetings. So it's been really interesting having to collaborate as well and sustain revenue as much as possible from business that we're losing, get creative with where we can kind of allocate those funds for future use. That's a whole nother concept that I'm learning, right? So it's, for me as a business owner, it's been, and a young business owner, I should say, it's been very eye-opening, and also it's challenged me, which is why I have no makeup on and my hair is up and I'm wearing a tracksuit, because it's just like all of my attention and focus is going toward keeping my team employed. How do I do that? Finding creative ways to work with people, so on and so forth.
I'm not wearing any makeup as well, so that'll make you feel good. So.
Oh, I couldn't tell. Yeah. You look great.
So you quickly, while you sit down with your team and you say it's time to pivot. So what is the pivot for you?
Yeah. So I sat down with my team, and I wanted to let them know, at this point, you guys are all, we're okay. We're financially healthy. But we do have to pivot. So we are financially healthy now, but that doesn't mean we're going to be financially healthy 3-4 months from now. So we need to all think together as a team, as a family unit, as I always remind them that we are, 6 months from now, a year from now, what can we do to keep this business going? So we took the virtual approach, which I know a lot of businesses are doing, as they should be. And we, because of our production background and really understanding how events operate and also how production works, we went the virtual approach. We've also, I think another important part of this is we partnered with Dahlia Plus Agency, who Dahlia is a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
We've partnered on so many different fronts for
She's
years.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah, she's awesome. But we put our minds together, as she's a business owner as well. And we said, what can we do together to not just offer virtual, but really make it so that it's an immersive experience, from content to design to activations to the technology. So really putting the technology at the back end of everything. So we don't want to just be a technology provider, because we do so much more than that with our rich history in production, and then her team's rich history in the content and design component of it. So together we've collaborated to really create an experience out of virtual. So it's not necessarily to replicate your face-to-face experience, but it's to do the best that we can in an effort to conserve the revenue for said organization that had to cancel their face-to-face meeting. So it's been great. We have been on the phone nonstop. I have talked about virtual until I've been blue in the face, and I'm having dreams about virtual meetings. I mean, it's like taken over my whole life, Eric. But I think, the learning from this has been huge. And in addition, what's been the most impressive for me is watching my team figure this out. I mean, we've created something that, in my humble opinion, a lot of tech companies would take a year to create, because you have the time. But when you're crunched for time and when pressure's on because the business is at risk, how do you come up with concepts that quickly and really use all sides of your brain to create something that is going to be useful and valuable to people? Right. So to watch that evolve over like a short few weeks, and to see how well it works, and just all of it, I'm so proud of my team. And it's kind of cool for me to know, it gives me comfort, because I feel like if we can get through this, which we're going to, we'll be fine for any other crisis that comes our way, because of how fast we were able to pivot as a unit, not separately, but as a unit.
Absolutely. And to your point of showing leadership and the way you're reacting, quite frankly, I'm really impressed the way you're reacting, and how you're expressing everything you're doing. I'm telling my wife and myself that the way we react now is how our kids will remember, what our kids will remember in the future when they will be faced by a crisis themselves. So I know in previous conversation, you told me how you learned from your father. You said that he's an entrepreneur as well, a business owner. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I love speaking about my dad. He's awesome. So my dad has always been cool, calm, and collect. He, like, nothing phases him, even if it's, a very stressful scenario. It's just, he always has a solution. And the reason why he comes up with a solution so quickly is because he's always taught us, don't panic. When you panic, you impact how your mind and how you perceive information and the way that you react to it. So I think my approach to this crisis, in addition to many other challenges that I faced in general, both personally and professionally, has always been that, don't panic. And it's such a simple statement, right? Like, we all have learned that in some capacity in our life, but for some reason, the way that my dad reacts has really stuck with me. I've watched him go through his own ups and downs in business, as every business owner goes through. And he never wears it. He never carries it to where it impacts his family, the way that he talks to us, the way that he is present in a moment. And that's really important to me. So although I'm incredibly stressed, it's not that I want to deny that. It's just more so I am learning how to handle it in a way that is not reacting by panic. And I think that definitely comes from my upbringing. And same with my mom. My mom tends to react just a little bit differently than my dad, I'm not going to lie, but together as a team, they operate in a way that's like, listen, stuff happens in life. You can't control everything. and this look at things as an opportunity and not as a roadblock. So for me, the opportunity now is when things go back to normal, because they will, we have a whole nother line of business that we've started through this crisis. So if nothing else, what a blessing out of this, that we're able to keep adding services to the business, and also really cultivate the partnerships that we've already created with certain companies like Dahlia's company, but even more so now.
That's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned about Don't Panic, which remind me always of the book, The Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. But people in our industry and the independent planners in our industry are used to not panic because there's always something going on. The rule, I planned meetings for 20 years in a previous life all over the world, and I never, ever had one program that actually was executed exactly as it was planned. There's something unexpected. But when you are now in a situation where you've been furloughed or you've been laid off, and yes, it's going to come back, but it's not going to come back overnight, and probably not in the next weeks. So what would you say to somebody in that position today that doesn't have a business, that is unemployed or looking at the future? What can they be doing right now in the next weeks?
That's a great question. For one, find a way to keep developing your skills. So if you are a planner, for example, there are virtual events that are taking place. So use your platforms, whether it's social media or whether it's, through organizations like MPI, PCMA, IAE, whatever you're a part of, to let people know what you do. This is not a time a lot of times we keep things to ourselves and we're like, oh, well, we'll figure it out when it gets better. I'm pretty vocal about what I do, and I encourage you to be vocal about what you do too. So exercise your platforms and let people know, hey, this is my story. I've been furloughed or I've been laid off. I'm a planner with X number of experience, and I can help you plan your virtual events. I can help you do X, Y, Z, whatever it is that your skill set is in. So that's the first thing that I would do. The second thing that I would do is make sure that you're maintaining your relationships, because although this is a really terrible situation right now, it is temporary. I don't know how it's going to come back, when it's going to come back, how strong the industry will come back, but it's going to. With that, people are going to be looking to employ again, right? You can't operate on your own. So what are you doing to maintain your relationships during this downtime? Are you reaching out to people? Are you scheduling, calls like this or FaceTimes or whatever it is to just say hello and catch up, and again, share your story with others so you're in the back of their minds. So I think it's just being transparent about your situation and asking for help. Don't be shy or embarrassed or afraid to ask for help. We all are really in this together. And the other thing that I would also say is maybe explore other industries for right now, just to kind of keep your head above water. So may not be the ideal job, but there are companies that are booming right now because of the fact that we're all going virtual. So Zoom, Amazon, some of these delivery companies, they're all actually employing people. So again, it may not be in hospitality, but in an effort to sustain and keep yourself above water from a financial front, and also just to busy your mind and keep it active and healthy, just find those employment opportunities that may not necessarily be in the industry for now. And then lastly, I think what I'd say is, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So from a mental health perspective, this is draining on all of us. Even if you are employed, this is draining. It's taxing to be home and to, worry about whether your grocery store has enough toilet paper or food. I mean, all of these things are not what we're accustomed to. So especially in the United States, I mean, it's, or North America and even in Europe, we're pretty spoiled. We're spoiled as humans. So to not have access to regular things like toilet paper is just, it affects you, right? So keep your mind healthy, make sure that you're consuming content that is not only mainstream media, but also positive and funny and spend time with your loved ones and family, and just keep your mind in a positive place.
Very good. Thank you. So one of the things we're discussing as well now, because of the whole situation, is all the things that I always said, one day I want to do this. Actually, it's maybe a good time to do it and to improve your skills for what's coming and what you want to be doing in the future, and something that you always wanted to learn, whether it's related to our industry or another language, whatever it is. And I was reminded this week about a great initiative from MPI, that they've opened the entire content of MPI Academy. The right move to make, and also very impressed with every single senior leader in the organization going out, speaking, explaining what the organization is doing. So thank you for that, because you're the vice chair of the Global Board of Trustees. So you're involved in that, and also the initiative about the membership renewal that the MPI Foundation is helping with. Can you speak a little bit about that? And now that I'm talking to you, I'm thinking I should call Paul van de Winter and ask for some money for all the great advertising I just did, right?
I know, right? Yeah. Do we get a cut out of this, Paul? No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. MPI is really, the organization cares about their members, right? So there is no MPI without members, and vice versa. So being on the Global Board of Trustees, serving as the vice chair for chapters for the GBOT, that this is what the foundation is for. The foundation is to come to the rescue, basically, for meeting professionals within our MPI community that need assistance. Obviously, this is an unprecedented situation and time where it's a very unique and different approach than we've ever had to take before as MPI and as the foundation. Before it was like to be able to serve by giving scholarships or grants and that kind of thing on a per basis approach. So what we were able to do is collaborate with MPI Global and be able to help fund a little bit of a program, if you will, where members that are in need are going through a system, a process of having conversations with folks within MPI Global to share their story. And it's a case-by-case scenario, but the option is available. So MPI has really, they're doing all that they possibly can to take care of members during this time. We know it's financially difficult for all of us. And, a membership may not be your priority. However, I would argue that your membership is also your out once we are out of this, because what I was saying earlier about maintaining relationships and making sure that you're exercising your platforms and using those organizations to really help tell your story and shed light on what you do as a professional. Those are the kinds of platforms that you want to stay connected with. So using things like the MPI communities that are developed and doing things like taking advantage of education that MPI is so graciously opening up to the entire events industry, through MPI Academy. Those are all resources and things that you want to maintain as an event professional. Because once we're out of this, those are arenas that you will have even then to continue telling your story. And to find people that can help you out of your situation, fingers crossed, sooner rather than later.
Yep. No, I remember when I came 10 years ago, I was incoming chair for the MPI board, and we had the three sources of revenue that were going down at the same time. The membership, the live event, the print advertising, everything was going down. And we worked with Alex Osterwalder from the Business Model Generation organization, and it was a very interesting moment. And to your point, we always get out of it one way or another, and relationship are so crucial.
Yeah.
So I know about myself, but I'm not here to speak about myself. I want to know from you. We're always talking about networking, developing your relationship. How much is it helping you, all the volunteering role you're having in the industry?
Oh man, So volunteer leadership is something I'm actually really passionate about. And it's funny because a lot of people look at me like I'm a psychopath when I tell them how much I actually do. They're like, where do you find time for all of this? But I think it's so important, and not just from a selfish approach, right? So yeah, of course it gives you exposure. It helps, build your network, all of those great things. But in addition, I have learned so much from people that are way smarter than me and way more talented. And I've been able to develop my skill set as a leader, as, just a professional in my field, and really learn about the industry through my volunteer positions. Mm-hmm. So for a situation like this, where, now you really do rely on your network, right? And you miss your network. You're like, okay, I miss my people. Like, where are my people? Having those calls with my chapter, for example, within our Orlando community here with MPI, or being able to get on the phone with members within our chapter that are struggling, and, just to be an ear, just for them to vent to, that is so rewarding. So when you think about volunteering, like the connections that you make and how strong they become, or how much stronger they become when you are faced with situations like this, is just, I can't explain it. It's so fulfilling to be able to know that I can pick up the phone and call literally anyone on my board at any time and say, I just need to talk. I'm having a day, I'm having a moment, I'm feeling it today more than other days, and I just need to vent. And knowing that they understand because they're in that same industry is, there's nothing like it. So volunteering has actually completely changed my leadership approach and me personally as a professional, but also from a professional standpoint, I've also, maintained a lot of good relationships and have created a lot of great relationships through the network that I've built. And for me, mostly, I volunteer mostly, as you mentioned, and as you know, within MPI, so both globally and locally. But it's been totally life-changing.
And congratulations for that. I can only concur with everything you just said. And I think it's important for those listening right now, if you're like me, a recovered introvert, in situation like this, you tend to, close yourself, stay home, don't reach out to people much. That's the worst thing to be doing today. At the contrary, you need to go out, reach out to people, maintain contact, as you say, through Zoom and call. And as soon as the live events are back and face-to-face events are reopening, that just to go there and meet with people, regardless of your situation. And there are other ways to go there, but that's so essential.
The other thing that I'll say, Eric, about volunteering that's been interesting for me is, I am younger in the industry. I'm not the youngest anymore, which is nice, a nice place to be, but I'm still viewed as a younger professional, right? So I have
You're a rising star for different magazines, so yes.
Yeah. So with that, it's been interesting when you talk about like applying for, especially from a global perspective, like to have a seat at the table. We always say like, well, I want a seat at the table. Well, you have to ask for it. And I would be silly to think, well, I want a seat at the table and preach about how I want a seat at the table without actually applying for it. So, if you're a younger person in the industry and you're listening to this and you feel like you're ready to take on a commitment that's outside of your 9 to 5 or your job, basically, apply for the positions within whether it's your local chapter on a board, or just start off as a volunteer and serve in that way, and then move up into a board position. And when you're ready, do apply for the positions with MPI Global. If the answer is no, it's just a no, not right now. It's not a no for definite, right? Forever. Right. So if you want a seat at the table, don't just sit back and say that in your circle of friends over a drink. Like, actually go for it and make sure that your voice is heard when you're, when you are volunteering.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. You are also very much involved and launched the Meetings 2 movement with Courtney. So can you tell us a little bit how the two of you decided to launch that, and what is the future of the movement now?
Yeah. So Courtney is one of my best friends. in general, not just in the industry. I've known her for quite a few years. And the way that all started, she actually was like coining the term meetings too for a little while. And then her and I got together. I actually interviewed her for an MPI TV segment on the meetings to movement. And then when our interview was over, we just kept the conversation going off the record, as we say in my industry, in production. And we were just very transparent with a lot of different experiences that we faced. And we just decided, okay, well, we can sit here and chit chat about it and, complain and whatever, or we can try to do something about it. And when I say do something about it, it's not to get people fired and all of that. It's just to educate the industry as to what tangible things both planners and supplier partners can do collaboratively to find a better way to prevent harassment from taking place at face-to-face meetings and events. So what we did was we put together kind of like a 10-step plan of tangible items that we have been able to present at events like WEC and within some of our local chapters and at Connect meetings and some other industry events. And we have found it to be incredibly eye-opening to see how little this has been discussed within organizations. But when they sit in our session, our meetings 2 session, it's like, wow, these are all, things that we could be doing starting tomorrow. Why are we not doing that? Why are we not adding this as a layer of protection when we talk about safety and security? That should fall under that umbrella too. Sexual harassment should. Yeah. So I think right now, like our biggest takeaway or our biggest success story is that the conversation is happening. It's no longer a taboo thing to talk about sexual harassment. It's out in the open. People are comfortable saying the word sexual harassment, and they're comfortable talking about it and talking about different situations that have happened within their events. So having the opportunity to be on stage with one of your best friends and being able to share, turn some of your negative experiences into positives through education, I think is the biggest success story and the most fulfilling part of the whole movement. In addition, I think also moving forward, we just want to continue to see what organizations are doing with this. So now it's like, okay, we've given you these tools and we've given you these tips and tricks, and we're going to continue to share them where people want us to share. But what's the next step? Like, how are we seeing these actually be implemented into an organization and how they're approaching sexual harassment going into their next event? So I think that's kind of phase 2, if you will, but we've made a lot of progress and we've had a lot of great follow-up discussions with organizations that have sat in our session and we're taking frivolous notes and are excited to go back and put them into play. So we're just trying to create, an industry where, and this is for men and women, we always say in our sessions, like, statistically, yes, women are more harassed than men, but I know men who have been sexually harassed too. So this is a human problem. It's not this is a man bashing party or any of that. Right. It's definitely important for humanity in general. And we just want to create an industry that is going to be safe from that, in addition to other things, for our future generations. It's
awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So one of the questions I asked you before in preparation for this interview was, and that's one of my favorite questions actually. Jason Gaignard is a friend who started the MMT community, an amazing community of entrepreneurs, always asking, if we were to meet in 1 year with a bottle of champagne, what would we be celebrating?
So because of the times that we're in now, I am praying to God that if we meet and celebrate in a year from now over a glass of champagne, which I hope we're doing, I hope it's in person, and I hope that we're celebrating just the fact that we have such a great industry and being able to be together again and, have that camaraderie in person and really be grateful for our industry. I think that's what I want to celebrate in 1 year. I don't want this coronavirus, COVID-19 scenario to be forgotten in a year from now when we're back to normal and back to business. I hope we're all approaching this with a grateful heart and also very much more appreciative of our industry as a whole, and that we're able to celebrate that together in person, in real life, not through Zoom.
Fabulous. Sarah, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I look forward to having this glass of champagne with you and all our friends in the industry very soon in the future.
Me too. I hope it's not a year. I hope we're talking like 3 months. Let's put it out into the world.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Great conversation with Sarah Soliman Daudin. I like the point she made about volunteering, what has been bringing her in her life as an individual, but also as an entrepreneur. What she says about connecting with people and remaining in touch with people during this crisis, which is very important. And last but not least, when she decided to pivot and how she did that with her team in her company. Great insight. And once again, if you have any question, any other person that you would like me to interview, let me know. Reach out to me via email, via the Facebook page of Even Business Formula, or on LinkedIn. Thank you.